Where the pro male collective is concerned, the kid gloves are off. We show passion in our videos. That's why our content is so attractive to guys when they can actually find it. We've learned that calmly trying to engage with your enemies that is a failure, and the trying to make light of it like we don't care also is a failure. So we get guys like this, these concerned trolls, trying to display their meekness as a form of strength. No dice, dude. We reject your loserdom. Now, I'm going to show you again. This is a male hobby. I know it's Dungeons and Dragons again, but this applies to any male space, any male hobby. This guy's about my age. We're all guys who enjoyed this hobby when we were kids, and they still don't want to admit what's going on. What is your name? Dracoya? Right. Dracoya. Men prioritized having women around over protecting their hobby, and the women destroyed the hobby out of sadism. That's what on here. And you're going to prove it to me now.
The deck of many things. Um, Famously, the deck of many things, Gary Gygax specifically wrote in the lore of the deck, hey, we don't know where this thing came from. It's a super powerful item, obviously, that can be a great boon or a complete and utter destroyer of dreams. And this game developer over there just wrote her character into the the history of the deck of many things.
Yeah, wrote her history. You're right. Her character. That's right. This woman, she's not interested in Dungeons and Dragons. She's not interested in your male hobby. She never was. But the creators of the game, or the guy, people, I shouldn't say creators, the people who, were in charge of the game wanted to have women around. These male nerds wanted women around, and they were willing to throw their game out in order to have that happen. Now, guys like you should recognize this. If you don't recognize it, you're a part of the problem. Dracolia.
And I mean, I just can't imagine like having the nerve to take your personal character and be proudly announcing the first neurodivergent character in D&D lore.
You can't, what a meek response. Dude, you should be outraged. You should be outraged. I mean, how many decades is this? This game is 50 years old, right? Like for you guys to be going on seeing this happen, this has been happening for 2 decades. This destruction of the game. You guys should be outraged by this. This is what you get, guys, when you're meek and mild. He's acting like it's all a shock by now. Dude, why are you shocked? There's no reason for you to be surprised.
And then say, oh, and they helped make the deck of many things. It's like, seriously? Are you kidding me? Uh,
Dude, what the hell is wrong with you? Jesus Christ. This is a woman who always hated the game. She always hated you. Women do not like men, dude. So this is an act of sadism. She's purposely disrespecting you as a man. This is what you have to recognize.
so it's just like a complete lack of respect. But
There you go. Thank you for admitting that.
this stuff, if you go to Drive Through RPG, is still tagged on all of the old material, every single one of it. We at Wizards recognize that some legacy content available on this website, Drive Through RPG, does not reflect the values of the Dungeons and Dragons franchise today. some older content may reflect ethnic, racial, or gender prejudice.
Okay, they're gaslighting you too, dude. You should be able to recognize that. These feminists, and that's what they are the biggest homophobes that have ever existed and the biggest racists that ever existed. Can I ask you what's your name again? Dracula? What is your name? Oh yeah, Draculia. Where do you think TERFs came from? TERFs was an offshoot of the feminist who hated gay men and especially trans women. They're the biggest homophobes that have ever existed. They take their lack of humanity and they accuse you guys of it, all of us guys. So you should be able to recognize the gaslighting.
That were commonplace in American society at the time. These depictions were wrong then and wrong today. This content is presented as it originally created because to do otherwise would be the same as claiming these prejudices never existed. Dungeons and Dragons teaches that diversity is a strength. And
And again, they're not diverse. Kicking out all the men. Well, actually, they're not even kicking you guys out. They're abusing you. But they're against men. They're not diverse. And that includes all men. That includes any uh, non-white man who plays this game.
we must strive to make our D&D products as welcoming and inclusive as possible. This part of our work will never end. So yeah, here we got Watsy still. This is all on there on the products out there saying, this is all racist material and whatnot. But it never stopped there. We have Kyle.
Now, here's the perfect example. What do you got? You've got an older white guy who's bashing his own gender and his own race too, to pander to women. Do you recognize that old D&D player, Dracolia? Do you recognize that? Men are willing to destroy other men to pander to women. This guy gets nothing out of his pandering, by the way, other than a sense of validation from women who hate his guts.
Brink, on a D&D podcast saying, you know, I'm just gonna quick skim to the meat of it. In my viewpoint, honestly, guys like me can't leave this can't leave soon enough for this hobby. So white dudes in the basement, guys like him, we got to get rid of them.
Oh, by the way, what's wrong with white guys being in the basement? You're a great demographic. So what they're saying is guys, it has nothing to do with white, by the way. It's guys who are low status. People don't like men, Jacoya. They don't like you, and they don't like me. And so we have to be useful. So being low status means we're not useful. Our humanity has been rejected, right?
Uh,
And to fight back, you've got to do what I did and said, guys in the basement are a great demographic.
and you got to wonder, like, what are they trying to achieve?
What is wrong with you? It's so obvious. It's sadism. It's the boot stomping on the face perpetually, like in 1984. Like, you can't figure that out by now? This is why the game went tits up. You can't come to terms with the fact that you're obsessed with the opposite sex and the opposite sex despises you. That's where all this is coming from.
Do they think that we're just like mindless consumers of product? Oh, whatever Watsy puts out, people are going to buy.
Well, to be honest, a lot of these male nerds complained, and then you turned around and did buy it. So they have all the ammunition they want to laugh in your face. I mean, you guys have to own this shit.
Well, clearly that isn't true. Clearly they they completely missed the mark, and I think
No, they got you guys pegged. Don't know how many. This isn't just your particular hobby. How this has been happening in the video game industry for 10 to 20 years. Guys saying, we should boycott, and then they don't. And then they buy the games anyway. No, they got guys pegged.
that's what happens with today's hyper-political, ideological driven world.
This is gibberish. Their ideology is feminist ideology. So all you have to do is say man hatred. Problem solved. You can't even articulate this. That's how weak you are. That's why this has happened.
That we live in is that, these people are so damn sure that they are right, that they
They're not sure that they're right. They're just attacking you.
they can't envision in a world where a statement like this could be seen in a negative view. You know,
No, they're all right. They want you to see it in a negative view. They live off your male tears. They want you guys complaining like you are here. And they lap those tears up. They know they're lying, dude. It's because you're such a female worshiper, you can't even come to terms with this fact.
he's out there and he's making sure that we all know that Wizards of the Coast are the good guys and screw all you white guys in the basement. Um,
Yeah. In other words, you're saying, hey, we're enemies of men. Men are bad. They're sexist. Do you understand that, Jacoya? They're sexist. They attack men for being male. They're the bad guys. And I notice you haven't said that yet. This is what I'm talking about, the weaklings and the meekness. You're saying, hey, they're talking about us being the bad guys. No, you counter and say they're the bad guys because they are. You'd be accurate, right? This is how it's done.
but obviously it doesn't stop there. I remember Thaco the clown, this villain from their Witchlight book, um, who hates children, Thaco the clown. I don't think I really need to go too much into this character, but to say, obviously it's a dig at old timers. There's the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, and men, period, right? And of course, it doesn't matter. Like you're falling into their framework again. They're only digging at you because you've spoken up against it to some degree. But they're just attacking men too. They have the complete contempt for the young guys and men of all races.
Book, you know, uh, where they're talking about how insensitive and derogatory language that could casually hurtful to anyone with physical or mental disability who happen to be old, fat, non-conventionally attractive, indigenous black.
There you go. You're saying you guys are low status, you're out of shape, you're ugly, and you don't have nice jobs. Right.
Black or woman. So in other words, the old D&D, the old timers attacked, like went on the offensive against anybody and everybody who wasn't a white guy, you know.
Yeah, they're gaslighting. They're also projecting their evil onto you, dude. Well, I should say onto us, because I fit your demographic, right?
They take exception to the fact that soldiers were fighting men, you know, historically that would be true. We were talking about it.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Let's calmly speak about the facts. Let's calmly speak about the facts. Is what leads you to loserdom? You are failing, Dracolia.
Bunch of war gamers, and what's funny is they also do something
See, this is also funny. The abuse I'm getting, the unjust attacks. It's just funny, dude.
here where they take a dig at women's lib. Um, you know, One of the things that the people that attack Gary Gygax do is they take quotes of his out of context. They snip out bits around it to make it appear to make it appear
Yeah, they do this all the time, dude. There's all kinds of deceased men of history that the feminists are going out and attacking and slandering and defaming. Gygax can't defend himself, right? And you guys aren't going to defend him, that's for sure. Why don't all you old guys, you're on YouTube, you're making money, why don't you put your money together and sue these monsters? Well, that thought doesn't come into your head because you can't even articulate what's going on.
as though he's saying something completely horrible, which I have another video on that coming up. Um, I'm going to show you what they do to tear this guy down. Um, because it's just easy, it's easy for them to pander to the folks that they're surrounded by. Like they're
Yeah, yeah, it's easy for men to pander to women. You can say it, right? And attacking men is easy anyway because you're a perfect example. Guys don't put up a fight.
they're out
This has to change.
in Seattle, the area, and that is the ideological mindset of the people that live there to a great degree.
The feminist mindset, the man hating, right? The sexist mindset. This is how you voice it.
I believe they just elected a communist mayor, never had a job before.
You're disgusting. Happens all the time. You guys try to link this feminist hate movement to communism. Shows you're a right winger. That's pathetic. So women are attacking you, and of course, you want to blame some other kind of ideology like communism. This is why men don't have nice things. Right here, this guy.
We'll see how that works out, but you know, uh, you know,
What if this communist is pro-male though, dude? Takoya, what if this communist is a guy who actually is fed up with feminists and kicks them all out? What are you going to say then? You're going to ditch the game because he's a communist?
they talk about slavery appears in OD&D. It appears in every D&D all the way up until fifth edition, really. And what's funny is about all these changes they made to D&D is that after they made these changes, where they're taking out words, if you recall, there were words like uh, civilization, slavery, all these words that they believe are loaded. You can't say something is black, black magic. You can't even really say something's dark. All of these changes, they make
Hey, you can say all these words in romance novels. Any space or hobby that women love doesn't get this treatment. Only our stuff. I want you to take note.
them, and then they come out and say, well, you can.
This is to ruin the game. It's to silence your voice as a man. That's its purpose.
Still play however you want. Well, you could have said that before. Before you went through all the rigmarole of upsetting a bunch of people, you could have just
A
said,
bunch of guys. Don't be gender neutral about this.
hey, uh, you could play however you want. You know, if you don't like it, you just forget it. But here we go. We have to overhaul everything to to meet the whims of a very small minority, apparently.
No, 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 not a small minority, dude. This isn't to meet the whims of somebody. This is to exercise sadism on and me. And women are not a minority. They're 50% of the population. If these people were such a minority, they wouldn't have this clout.
Because based on
You think like trans women and men have this kind of power? No, they don't. This is fueled by the female sex.
2024 sales, that's who they were pandering to. This small minority of people who actually bought the book.
No, no, no. You are as dumb as a bag of rocks. You're purposely stupid. I should correct myself. You're doing it on purpose. Men are in denial at the fact that women don't like us. So you jump to some scapegoat. So typical.
And then there's probably a significant number of people who bought the book, even though the sales were terrible,
There you go.
who just don't pay attention. They don't realize.
Dude, they don't care if the game gets run into the ground. Look, they ran Star Wars into the ground. Countless franchises were run into the ground. These are women. They don't care about money in the way that men do. They love money. They want it, but they don't have to produce it themselves. So they can run a business into the ground. They're enjoying your male tears, right? That's their motivation. That's what they want. And that's what they're getting.
What's going on. Um, so, and it goes on and on. But the reaction, and then Watsy's reaction to this, to the pushback of saying these things about the old timers, the old
The what pushback? I don't see any pushback. Like, guys, again, look at this clown here, this concern troll. If he had his way, I would be this guy. Do you think this old guy has any effect whatsoever?
the old TSR guard, if you will, is Jason Tondro.
Well, they're less of a guard and more of a red carpet.
He writes early in the book's development, the marketing team asked me what sorts of critiques we should expect and prepare for. And I and the editors agreed the problem was going to be from progressives and people from underrepresented groups who justly took offense at the language of OD&E. I didn't write the preface.
Really? So he's saying that it's just using actual words to describe actual things is just. Okay, this guy's a laydown. He wasn't a guard, was he? Right? And he's wrong. It's about women that they invited in. Jason Tondro, see that old dude? He wants women around him, and he's willing to sacrifice his hobby to do it. Right? And he is. When he used the word justly, he just showed you that he is willing to destroy the game. He's not going to defend it.
Until late, and I wrote it to address these concerns. It never occurred to me I'd rouse the ire of the grognards. It's obvious now that
So Drognars is the latest man bashing title, right? It's just specific to Dungeons and Dragons. But it's same as calling you an incel, right? That's what a Dragnar is. It's an incel. You're an incel, dude. And by the way, Dracoya, it doesn't matter if you're married or if you have had sexual relationships, because incel just means a man who doesn't know his place. He hasn't been validated by women and he doesn't 100% cave in. That's all an incel is, and therefore that's all a Dragnar is.
I look back on it, but I just don't take those critiques seriously even now. I consider those people not worth listening to.
Really, you don't take the critiques of the people who have control of the game seriously. Well, that makes me not take you seriously. This is wimp talk, everybody. This is wimp talk. Just like my bullies took my game, took my D&D book, and since there's nothing I can do about it because I'm not willing to fight, I'm going to pretend that it doesn't matter.
So I didn't anticipate their outrage. He doesn't think that they're worth listening to because he doesn't consider the fact that it's a game that many people, and I'm saying thousands and thousands and thousands of people have invested their lives into.
Yeah.
Um,
Guys, you don't need to say gender neutral terms. It's not just people, it's guys.
all of their free time into. They've
Right?
and it's a game that allows you to really
That's why the women went after it, dude. Because they saw your joy. They saw your contentment. People don't like men. They don't like men's contentment. They don't want to see a contented man, right? But women especially, right?
make it your own. And this is something I think Watsy has completely failed to understand.
No, no, no. He hasn't failed to understand shit. Neither of you. You guys understand perfectly what's going on. You just can't openly say so. You can't bring yourself to say so. Man, these wimpy nerds.
Um, is that D&D is something that you can make your own. Um, like I said, you can play however you want. You could build your own custom world. You don't
How are you going to make it your own? If you're a brand new player and all you've got is the newest editions that are man bashing, you can't do anything, dude. This is weakling talk.
you don't even really need books, or you don't need the latest
Bullshit. How would you know the rules without the books?
edition. You can do anything you want. And when there's that level of investment on the part of players, and the DMs especially, of course they're going to embrace the game as their own. Of course they're going to react strongly when there are changes that they don't agree with.
When they're attacked, these aren't merely a difference of opinion. Jesus, pathetic.
Or there's dialogue that directly attacks them. They're
There
going
you, there,
they're going
there you go, right there. Finally, you admitted it. So you do know what's going on, dude.
to react. So the question is, what is it going to take for Watsy to win these people back? And
What's it going to take to get you cowardly guy laydowns to actually stand up for yourselves? As Homer Simpson once said, stand up for yourself, nerdlinger.
I don't know if it's possible. I don't know that it's possible for two reasons. One, because they dug such a big hole. Just
They don't care. They haven't dug a hole. No, dude, this hole they dug, they want that. That's for you. They dug this hole and they're dumping you in it.
absolutely insulting the longtime fans of the games. I mean, insulting, denigrating. telling us that, our opinions are wrong and are meaningless.
Yeah, yeah, they're attacking men. That's right.
Um, Telling us that what we did in the 70s and 80s was racist somehow. Um,
Yeah, they're gaslighting, dude. These people speaking are the biggest racist out there. Feminists are the biggest racist in existence.
by playing the game. And, and then on one hand, trying to bring in the Gygax clout and privately apologizing, and then on the other hand, leaving all that garbage out there on official
Yeah, of course, they're trying to reel you back in, but they don't want your money. They want you suckers to actually engage with them again and then suffer again. They love it. They love it when you guys, you you guppies, take the bait again and get hooked again. They love it. They love you seeing you get annoyed and squirm and complain, but never really push back. Again, you old timers should be suing this company into the ground. And actually, you should be forming your own.
lots.
And Luke Gygax, if he had any cojones, actually, the trouble is he has cojones because it's people with cojones that lay down for women. Luke should be taking control of this game. He should be fighting them tooth and nail in court and gaining control over this game and booting all these evil people out.
See, uh, publications saying how racist they were. And the second reason I don't think it's going to be possible is because of where they are headquartered. Because they would have, I think, a little bit of a revolt on their hands from the inside, um, if they started going back on this ideology, not just from the inside, but from that community at large out there.
You can say feminism, and there's not going to be any revolt because you guys have been taking this shit for decades and you haven't revolted yet.
Um, it's a different world, I think, than say like the Midwest, especially.
Bullshit, dude. Bullshit. Feminism is worldwide. You can find it in India and Korea. This is pathetic. So your game was destroyed, not because women have a contempt for men. It's because they just happen to be in this certain part of the country that you consider left wing.
um, where a lot of players are concentrated. It's just it's a different world out there. It's a different mindset, I
No,
think.
no, no. This has been the same mindset since the dawn of humanity. It's just that in a technological modern world, women are finally able to voice it, voice their contempt for men that they've always had.
And I have to say that I don't look for Watsy to come out and make this public announcement, but maybe. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think you guys have been pathetic long enough. That's what I think. You've been lay downs this whole time. And frankly, I'm sick of it. That's what I think.